Do the. Good, I didn't get that. Assessor Trowbridge. Commissioner Young.
Wonderful. And then can we have a pledge of allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And then we'll go with public comment in person. So if we want to go around in a circle, Carrie Lynn, did you have anything?
For public comment? No, but if you want me to address the board when we get to the bill.
Definitely, without a doubt. And then Ms. Young. And then Ms. Rose.
No.
Mr. Wild here.
Okay, very quickly. I feel a great disappointment, primarily because I feel that as a resident, I'm not being heard or being totally ignored. Why? Because the purchase of the building was settled at a meeting which I believe was packed on one side. Okay. God bless you, you did it. You should but I see a lot of problems with that building. And I see now additional expenses being tacked on to the table. And I think I'm more interested, far more interested in services for residents of the township than I am in the purchase of a building that I think has enormous importance. To make this clear, and one more thing I wanted to say is that we meetings are held here, it's very difficult. There are lots of new comments early before the meeting really begins. After that, I feel, why am I here? Because I can't comment, defend, or make a statement about what's happening at the meeting. And I wish we could make some changes on that point. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Galloway.
What's done is done, the building's being purchased. I just want to see the board take into consideration the recommendations from the Northern Illinois survey of the area as far as what we need in the way of services. And I know you have to revise your budget. I hope you would include expanding services in keeping with their recommendations.
Thank you, sir. And then Mr. Brubaker.
According to a local successful commercial architect, with 30 years of experience, we heard about the board's pending building purchase. Quote, the cost to convert restaurant space to office space is well over 3 times the cost to demolish and reuse the standard retail space, which in turn has a higher cost than finding an office building that just needs carpet and paint. Right now, the office supply is way too high and would by far be cheaper, it would be far cheaper to obtain. In the Chicago area, offices are being converted to the residential because of the glut on the market. What the board proposes is a long-term loss, unquote. In short, if your goal was to acquire property that could be converted for use in improving services provided by Lisle Township, that was your goal, you have made the worst possible decision from an economic standpoint. This is without even considering the idea that the building might not be available for 9 years. The clerk, the assessor, however, knew these facts by the nature of their work. And they have a decidedly different goal, that wasting taxpayer money so that Lisle Township services cannot be improved, because that's the Republican way. This board, effectively led by the nose, by the clerk and the assessor, has supported this effort, either because they agree with this philosophy, or they're just too lazy to ask for legitimate assessment of the alternatives.
Yeah.
You're a little busy?
You said.
I'm
No,
listening.
she likes it.
Is there anything else, sir?
No.
Don't wanna interrupt. And then, Mr. Spiegelman.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, I'd like to make a few comments if I can do so without side chatter. I know it's irritating to have to listen to a citizen for 3 minutes. Such is the job. Anyway, under line 10-1308, I'm asking a direct question. I have no intent behind it. The $330,000 figure for capital improvements. I take it this is also a new line in a budget that's applicable to the 21-21 Ogden and is not some previous entry with regard to the windows and that sort of thing. And so hopefully that will be addressed during this meeting and made clear. Second, I kind of want to express my distress at how all this has gone down. When the supervisor announced that she was opposed to the purchase of the building, there was a tremendous uproar in this room. And one of the things that was mentioned was that I thought we had agreed that we had this bipartisan agreement. Well, I look back at the relevant meetings, unless I'm mistaken as to which ones this was decided at. And I saw no big declaration about some great bipartisan agreement. It was simply agreed that this proposition would be put forward and a decision would be made. And I think the supervisor has every right, if she was lobbied to do so, to change her mind on her position, as all of you have the responsibility to at least be open to being lobbied by citizens or whatever it is you decide. So, I would implore you that, I know there is some bad blood between some people and the supervisor. A lot of it had to do with making hiring decisions that you felt you should have been consulted with. And I don't think anyone's saying she didn't have the right to do this, but if you're upset with her because of that, I think this had a lot to do with that $164,000 budget cut, which has been discussed before. It does appear that we have money for capital improvements, so it cannot have been that severe an issue. So, please think about whether you're serving the citizens rather than some personal upset, shall we say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did you have anything, Operations Manager Wolf? Okay, great. And then as I'm looking online, we don't have any other Zoom participants. And then as we're looking at the amount of online ability to put public comment, there's 2 public comments.
The first one's from Holly Koopman. When you approved the budget last month, you purposefully did not include the forecasted amount of about 1.8 million to purchase the Bubble House building. Minutes later, you went behind closed doors in executive session and approved the purchase. The trustees on both sides of the aisle can split hairs and say that you didn't know how the town hall would go, but clearly with all the Republican officials and most of the Democrat officials supporting this, you knew it would go your way. Now you want above the purchase price and an additional $330,000 on top of the 1.795 million. What exactly is the 330,000 for? Why is this not itemized? There was 0 mention of this at the town hall. Also, can you fix the purchase amount? You added an extra 0, making it look more like 18 million in the documents You quickly rushed to post online for this special meeting, asking for an additional $2.2 million. Trustee Ferguson said, we didn't have in the surplus. Why also is the amount for rent still included in the budget? Should that be adjusted? Seems there is a ton of fat capitalized in the budget for the assessors building, like the 250,000 for setting up their office. What was that for? And yet you cut the payroll by 164,000 for the people who provide basic services to our township. So when will we know which of the worker bees get a pay cut or fired? So the assessor gets an additional 330,000. When will that cut be made? That's Holly Hookin. Next is Mary Ann Vasquez. First, I would like to thank the board for acting professionally at the recent town hall meeting. I was very pleased to see it was not the typical circus show you usually provide residents. I really am grateful. At the recent town hall meeting, I voted against the building. Most of the residents voted in favor of the building. This is democracy. I wonder whether you could have won had you not lied about the cost of the building. I'll give the board the benefit of the doubt that perhaps you just did not do your homework before such a very important meeting. It isn't a good look either way. Lying is becoming a little too prevalent within politicians, and not having the correct numbers before presenting to such a large group is just shoddy. You recently received results of the needs assessment by NIU. It clearly states that the residents of Lisle Township need and want senior services, social services. The next senior seminar has over 55 people. That number will increase as more residents become in need of services and become aware of the services. That should be your priority. If you all are not serving the people as government it was intended to do, then stop standing in the way of those that put the community first. That's Mary Ann Vasquez.
Okay, public comment has been heard. Anybody else that has any public comment? Okay, agenda item 4 is done. Next is agenda item 5, which is the new business related to the acquisition of 2121 Ogden, and Carrie Lynn would like there's 5 pieces that need to be approved in that. The first one is approve the check for the escrow amount.
Yes, so this is pursuant to the contract. I can tell from public comments, there's a little confusion if people think the board has the ability to purchase, and the board doesn't have the ability to make that decision. But in accordance with what the electors did, and matched the outstanding contract for the right of first refusal, we have the contract, and one of the agenda items we have is for the supervisor to execute that today. And it calls for the down payment of a $10,000 escrow. So we're asking for the approval of a $10,000 check to Chicago Title.
We need to make a motion.
Yes.
I'll make a motion to approve the 10,000. I'll second. That's good.
Thank you, trustee Geist and trustee Page for the second. Any other discussion?
I have a question. Is there a fee associated to that? It looked like on the, not the rider, but the strict escrow agreement. Typically, I mean, it wouldn't be in there for very long, and
I don't think so. I think we just need to check for the $10,000, and then anything else would be adjusted at closing.
okay, they're not charging us an escrow fee for it.
I'm not seeing that.
I thought I saw it on strict joint order number 1 escrow billing instructions. Am I misreading? Escrow trust fee will be billed as follows: 1/2 to seller and 1/2 to purchaser. And that's not usually consistent with contracts. Yeah.
Which document are you?
This Chicago Title and Trust Company is called strict joint order number 1 escrow trust instructions.
Everybody can mute their phones, please.
Oh, but then you see the note at the bottom where they even if we close their office. They give the ability to.
Escrow trust fee for the joint order escrow is still unpayable within 30 days from that protected.
Yeah, I mean, I think if we close this quickly, which everybody intends to do, the only little hang up we have is the ability of the funds, which is why we're doing a budget amendment tonight also.
Okay,
So, I don't know, I would have to check on the issue of the escrow fee.
okay,
It
because I would
doesn't-
suggest that, we put it someplace where it does not charge us.
And where it's clearly either we're gonna get it back or we're not.
Oh, we'll get it towards the purchase price, that's the
Okay.
escrow. That I'm not concerned with, I'm just concerned with, if there's a fee.
Yeah, the last part of the note though says that we waive if they usually waive it if it's close to Chicago title, so
Got it,
I think that's what the intention is.
and that'll be that. May reduce or waive the escrow trust fee for each owners.
Any other questions or discussion? Okay, then can we have a roll call vote? Clerk Ellis?
Sure, trustee Robinson,
Yes.
trustee Page.
Yes.
Trustee McGovern.
Yes.
Trustee Geis.
Yes.
Supervisor Hewitt.
Yes. Okay, then, approve checks for the rental of the town hall. And that's because we had agreed that we're going to have the town hall at the Lisle High School. And we needed a down payment and we need to make sure that that you're approving what was agreed to be done.
I would like to make a motion to approve the check for town hall. What was the amount?
Where is the check?
Yeah, can we
It's
give an amount?
there is an amount, there's two checks that were written. Bookkeeper Rose, do you have the,
It's voided, yes, I have the check for the refundable deposit.
so we got the deposit back because we took care of everything, the time needed to be done. And then there was another check that was it was 700 and
I don't have that one, that was for, you took that one.
Debbie Quick Polowitz did, but it was for, as I recall,
I
700.
took the $250, handed it to them, and I'm assuming you have that back and
Yes.
ripped up, right?
Yes.
I don't know how much the other one is, because that was you,
You had both.
negotiated.
Yeah,
Why can't I wait for the regular? meeting?
Well, this is all related to, I just wanted to make sure that we're doing this as soon as possible. This was all related to, in order for us to be here right now, going through these details, we needed to have the town hall. And we needed a place to do that.
I'd like to redact my motion until we know what that amount is. Before I go. Thank you.
Wait till next regular scheduled meeting.
It would be really great to have this done, so if bookkeeper, Rose, if you wouldn't
Is
mind.
the school district applying pressure to pay it 1 week sooner?
They asked for the money before the event. A lot of times venues require money before an event. And-
This is an intergovernmental relationship. I'm shocked that they would be pressing us. I'm shocked.
They asked for the deposit. is
But
what
we
they
gave them
asked
the
for.
deposit.
We did,
So what's
and
the
that was
concern?
fine.
And we got it back. I just want to make sure that there is approval for the funds that have been spent. That were approved, that you all wanted to have the meeting, you all wanted to have the location. I'm just trying to make sure that you all are approving that check.
I just want to make sure we're not hauled in for checks.
Was it paid before the meeting? Did
A deposit.
So again, we had to have a meeting. All of this was done relatively fast. Because we needed to have,
But that's
the
not the
decision-
question, Supervisor. Hewitt. The question is, why can't this wait till next week? We really expected to come here and really focus on the purchase of this building. This is a special meeting. That was the purpose of this meeting. So if we could table, I'll make a motion to table the check approval till next, where we're gonna schedule a meeting next week.
is there a second
I'll
to
second.
table this?
Yeah, I'll second.
So, okay, so you all wish to have this tabled in a roll call vote, Clerk Polowitz?
Trustee Geis.
Yes.
Trustee Page.
Yes.
Trustee McGovern.
Yes.
Yes.
Supervisor Hewitt.
No. Okay, then, moving on to C, which is authorize Supervisor Hewitt and Special Township Council to execute the documents.
So the documents that we're talking about specifically would be the real estate contract, and Scott came from my office, who has been working on this matter, has provided those to the supervisor. With the places that you would need to sign them, and there's some things like this, we're gonna need to sign.
Okay, so we just need to approve this.
Yes.
I'll make a motion to approve the authorization of supervisor and special township council to execute the documents for the purchase of 21.
Second,
Thank you for the copies and please.
We have a second?
Yes, guys, oh my God,
And thank you, trustee Geis and trustee McGovern. Any other discussion?
Any concerns with any of the rider firms? I mean, you guys reviewed all these, right?
Right, no, it's pretty standard, and Scott has negotiated changes to some of the terms, so.
Okay, thank you.
So I also realized that the date is not in July. And I was also wanting to know if there are any fees associated with this particular, with any of the other amounts with the closing.
Well, I know even of the closing document at the closing. So you would have a full itemization of all the expenditures, then there's always like title fees and things like that.
The reason why I'm asking is because we're gonna need to put it in a budget, and so we wanna include those fees.
It's included in the amended budget, the number that's.
$1,000,008 covered.
Okay. Any other discussion?
My question was just if we were able to get some of the due diligence from the initial buyer.
I believe, yeah, the previous buyer had already started some of the documents that were needed. And so he was willing to sell those to the township at his cost.
Perfect.
So we're in the process of doing that.
Great.
And then if there's no more questions or discussion, then we'll go with a roll call vote, please.
Trustee Dice.
Yes.
Trustee McGovern.
yes.
Trustee Page.
Yes.
Trustee Robinson.
Yes,
Supervisor Hewitt.
Yes. Okay, then, next is item D, which is approved tentative amended budget and appropriation ordinance funding capital line item. Is the only suggested change in here.
The only change is I added line to $1,000,008. I'm telling you, Gene pointed that out. My fingers won't get to it. But we put in the columns and made them all sure that the only change is the $1,000,008 to push it together. The other items were reduction in the rent for the assessor himself and rental income. I think the trustees need to have some discussion in not such a hurried fashion. I think there may be some legal complications of whether you can divert the rent money from bubbles into general assistance or other funds. So I thought just let's change this, and then you can have a discussion more at your leisure of what other changes.
Thank you. Good about that.
Agreed.
So in order to do the amended budget, we have to follow the same project or the same format that we used for the original budget. So what we really want to do today is approve this tentative ordinance. And I just compared it on to the filed version you have online, ordinance 2023-004, to confirm that one did previously include 330.
Yes.
So the 330 is not a new addition, that was previously there. And once this is passed, it needs to be available for public inspection for 30 days, and it needs to be published once. It doesn't have to be published 30 days in advance, but published once prior to the public hearing. Your next agenda item is establishing that date, which would have to be after September 2nd.
And I think there are some pieces missing though, and we may take our time. We have a month to obviously make some of these amendments and get some of the numbers, but there's some pieces that I would say are missing. Glad that we caught the typo with the extra zero. We must immediately interview and contract with a property management company to care for the 2121 Ogden and 4711 Indiana properties. That's not currently in the budget. We need to buy more insurance for the property. Currently, the estimate is on the budget. I've requested a quote from Connor and Gallagher, our insurance broker, to make sure that we get those numbers. If the tenant in the small unit vacated at the lease's end, the township would have to pay for the utilities for 2 months, which we should put in the budget. Any expenses associated with closing, such as legal filing, and if that's already enclosed in your number, that's good to know. We just want to make sure that we have enough money. And then obviously changing where the rent is going and that we are receiving rent is.
Yeah, all of those things we thought we would do At least that's what I thought the trustees, they would have more time to discuss how they exactly handle it.
So I'm just reminding us that we need to at least address those. Next, we also have had the request for police presence at various meetings, so that's currently not budgeted. We would need to know when we would want to have the police presence and then how much exactly we would need to budget for that. The NIU needs assessment showed scientifically proven evidence that the community would like senior services expanded. They want communication. The food pantry is very much appreciated. The community believes that there are services, that these are services that are essential. So now that you can make changes with the data, will you make those changes that the scientifically gathered data has shown? Next, we have proposed changes in the personnel budget that have yet to be publicly proposed. The employees have been stuck waiting for reviews, job descriptions. And so understanding when those descriptions are going to be approved, then making sure that we have all of the numbers out for the public's transparency, so that before the budget is passed, we can know exactly what kind of personnel changes we need. There's a new federal pregnancy law that went into effect on June 27th. And we need to be aware and able to pay that amount of money, or meaning that if there is somebody that were to become pregnant, we're able to be able to cover that. Next, we have the on-the-ground reception to the senior
Could
programs.
you clarify, cover that, cover what?
Meaning that, for example, if we need to at least have some, and we'd ask accountant later for more information on this as to exactly how much we need a budget for in order to comply with the federally mandated Pregnancy Fairness Act. So
It's not coming under their health benefits?
no. And so meaning that we would need to either expand, there's a variety of pieces that we would need to, sorry, my time's up. But there's quite a bit of expenses that I really feel like, because of the changing needs that have happened, our senior program has been sold out. Our ride program, we're almost at the point of having Joe filled up the entire time. So we need to really look at having a part-time driver being hired. And if you all want to increase the hours of the food pantry, then frankly, the only way to increase the hours of the food pantry is to hire more staff. So
Okay, so
that's what's going
a
on.
couple
with that.
questions about some of the things that you mentioned. So, oh my gosh, there's so many things you said. So let's go backwards. The needs assessment, which we all said, and I never said anything about an expansion of senior services. We've all agreed that we want to expand senior services. And in order to do that, we need a facility to do that, because I don't think the seniors want to have their program in the food pantry or in the parking lot. Right, so also, so that's that. I mean, is there anybody else who recalls the needs assessment saying that they were looking for senior services? I've asked repeatedly what type of senior services they would like, but that's not what the needs assessment said. And nobody else here is recalling that. So your scientific data said that people were not aware of senior services.
Are you aware?
Correct, are you aware? Not they were demanded. In the meetings, it has been demanded, and we agree that we do need to expand senior services. So I just want that noted on the record, that we want to be really careful about delivering misinformation in these meetings, because people leave these meetings and then more misinformation goes out into the public. Like that we're converting a restaurant to an office building, which we are not. It is a brewery. There's no kitchen. So, I mean, there's just things that happen here, or when you state things like this that create chaos and confusion. So I just want that noted in the notes, please, that was incorrect information given out. And then my question to you about the lunch and learns, that's awesome that those are filling up. That's so exciting. I'm really excited about that. The challenge with the driver, how many drives are happening a day?
So when it gets to, we've had a growing amount. It's been really exciting because the newsletter has come out. So when he gets to 15 rides in a day, then he's booked. We
Okay,
can't
how
take
many
any.
rides does he
What
have
do
a
you
day?
know?
So we've, and
Not the word growing. I want an actual definitive number so we understand what we're looking at.
there's been several days when I've been told that we're booked. And for example, when we just look at the one lunch and learn that's scheduled for August, there's 55 people scheduled. And if a portion of those people decide that they're all eligible to, because they're senior citizens, they're all eligible to take a ride. So even if a portion, 5% decide that they would like a ride to the lunch and learn, we're booked then. So
Well, I
just
think
that
that's gonna
one
be a
event.
challenge, because if 200 people want to come to the lunch and learn, we won't have a transportation for them. So I think we need to also be mindful of, we have to have some limitations set so that we can accommodate the people. But that still is not answering the actual question of how many drives are being reserved a day.
So here's
And
again,
didn't we ask Mr. Wolf to also be safety protocol certified so that he could be helping with the overflow of the driving that needed to happen? And then one last thing I want to mention. If we're gonna have this many people coming to the lunch and learns, is it possible, because we should have a relationship with the park district, and the park district has transportation buses, that maybe they could help out? Or maybe the lunch and learns are happening at the park district, which the senior citizens seem to be able to access them quite easily.
so the staff reports are coming in on the daily, and they are, I'm sure that you're gonna get a ride report of what the month of July had for rides. The really great thing is that we had the newsletter that went out to all the different houses. And so because of that newsletter, we really have had an intake in a variety of different services. It's been really a great reception. So I expect that tomorrow you'll get those numbers as to, and Operation Manager Wolf, wouldn't you say that those numbers are likely coming tomorrow?
Well, I know the number now.
Sure, thank you, sir.
So right now, we're averaging about 12 rides a day. Now, when he gets to 15, that's when he'll have his time limitation.
If 12 is an average, that means the most rides you had in a day is 24 and the least is, I mean, like, what's the real number? Because 12 would be a really high average.
Well, there'll be days when we have 15,
Mhm.
there'll be days when we have 10,
Mhm.
there'll be some days when we have 7 or 8.
So the average is really more about 9.
Well,
I'm sorry?
I would say probably about 7 to 12.
Okay. It's good, it's important to know, because we have to, if you can't be quiet during the session, we're gonna have to ask you to leave the room. This is our meeting. The question is how, we really need accurate data in order to increase the budget, right? To justify another $45,000 for a driver plus $15,000 in benefits. Would you agree? We need like clear, consistent data that's demonstrating that. So if you could really be helpful to us and make sure we're collecting that, that would be really helpful.
Well, we'll have the ridership numbers on the department.
All right, thank you.
So that's coming tomorrow. As well as understanding that the reports from NIU, but when it comes to any other questions that you had that weren't
I would like
answered?
to address the need for police presence. When we do have polarizing or contentious decisions in a meeting, I think we are expecting bigger crowds. We need more space anyhow. I think that the Lisle Police Department has a boardroom that would accommodate us very well. It's, I think the fee is $25, or it was a couple of years ago. The police do wander in and out, however, they are not paid for their presence. The Lisle Women's Club meets there, many HOAs. We could set up a dais with their desks, and I think there's a blank wall. We could bring that out. So I think that would be a great option that would reduce our budget.
Idea.
It is, and I did talk to the Lisle Chief of Police about this expense and explaining to him that we're trying to be, really responsible with the taxpayer dollars. And, he said that the first time it was really challenging because they were asked kind of like the day of. So that was challenging to find someone, but we're giving them a week notice now, so it should be a little bit easier. I did also talk to a retired DuPage sheriff who would be willing to be present for a fee of $60 an hour. So, if cost is truly the issue, then, we could certainly look at that. I think the challenge is if we start creating these hostile situations, we wouldn't feel so uncomfortable having the audience that we do. So, maybe you as the supervisor can help to defer that a bit.
I think it's general safety too, just with big crowds, you never know, log numbers, it's nice to have a presence.
So we need to decide on the where and how much money you're gonna budget for it and all of those decisions.
What I'm saying is I
And at
don't
what
feel the
point
need to increase
do
that
you-
budget. I think there's other solutions that are possible that we have not yet investigated.
It sounds like we could pay for it out of petty cash.
Yeah.
Right, $25, yeah.
I don't believe that that's how petty cash should be used. I think this needs to be allow for a lot more transparency. So again, we just need to also understand if, who is wishing this presence and that we have the finances to support that.
Well, I think that, do you need each of us to tell you do we need to raise our hand? Who would like to have police presence at our meeting next week? There you go, all of us.
Okay,
We've got contingencies. I've got like 25,000 contingency.
we just need to, again, if we're gonna be redoing the budget and we're putting in, every, dollar, we really need to have this discussion because frankly, the last time we called them, it was 500 and I think it was 556 for 2 hours
That's
for
why we
2
didn't want to
people.
hire 3 people until we had a completed budget, but that's neither here nor there. We want police presence next Wednesday, so please make sure that that happens. Thank you.
You got it. Just wanting to make sure that we have all of that information in
Thank
hand,
you.
that you approve that. Okay, great. Any other discussion? And then we could have a roll call vote. Clerk Powers?
What are we, I don't have a
I think,
motion.
didn't we have a motion
Yeah, that's how we got into discussion.
No, we did not have a motion.
on the tentative budget approval?
We did it because you started talking, so that's true. We didn't.
Okay, would anybody like a motion to approve
I'll make a motion to
Highway
approve.
Commissioner Young's tentative?
I'll
budget?
second.
Okay, thank you, trustee Robinson and trustee Page. Any other discussion? And then a roll call vote, please.
Trustee Robinson?
Yes.
Trustee Page?
Yes.
Trustee McGovern?
Yes.
Trustee Geis?
Yes.
Supervisor Hewitt?
No. Okay, then, it passes. And then we have the item E, set public hearing on the amended budget and appropriation ordinance.
So that would be the date, right?
Yes,
What type of notice do we have to get that?
it has to be over 30 days. And we need a few days to get to that over 30 days.
Okay.
We have to
So,
publish it, yeah.
So if we're
But it doesn't
looking,
have to be published for 30 days, so.
Oh,
This has to
got
be
it.
published once during the 30 days, so it would be 30 days from tomorrow. That you would have to happen, so, and then that puts you right on Labor Day week. So probably the 4th is Labor Day, right, so. But you can't have a special meeting on a public day.
so September 5th or the 6th,
When's your September meeting?
the 13th.
You can do it then if you want, unless you want to move it up when Labor Day closing here.
School's just starting. I know there's a lot of back to school
Maybe you have
nights.
to-
so I don't have the dates for those.
what if we do, what if we do it?
They want to choose
the
fast.
Wednesday?
On the escrow, it says on or about September 20th. Do we have a date on the contract?
Well, it just says 60 days,
Okay.
but they want to
From
close as
Sunday.
soon as possible. So I don't know if the 5th or 6th would work for anybody for a special meeting.
So the 5th and 6th or 6th, is there a preferred one?
I would say if we can stick with Wednesday, the 5th, just makes it a little easier.
It would
Be Wednesday the 6th.
Tuesday, the 5th, or Wednesday, the
Wednesday, the
6th.
6th. Yeah, I apologize.
I keep watching something too.
Wednesday, the 6th.
And then what time? 7:30, 7 o'clock.
You're in the afternoon.
Is it a public?
Yeah.
Can we?
It has to be
morning time?
public.
I would come in the morning too, if that's easy for you.
I love
Whatever
it.
works,
I love
whatever works best for you, I'll make work for me.
That's
I will
very
be in school.
Oh, you're
difficult
still
for the
running.
public.
I won't be here unless you have a contract.
So then,
I can do anytime after 3 p.m.
okay, anytime after 3 p.m.
Well, then,
And
can we just do 6 o'clock then?
6 o'clock on the Wednesday, the 6th. Is that all?
6.
6 o'clock on Wednesday, the 6th. Okay, great. And then do we need to make a motion to approve that?
I'll make a motion to approve the date of Wednesday, September 6th, at 6 p.m. to amend the budget and, I'm sorry, for a hearing on the amended budget and appropriation. ordinance.
I will second.
Thank you, trustee Geis and trustee McGovern. Any more discussion? And then a roll call vote.
Trustee Geis?
Yes.
Trustee McGovern?
Yes.
Trustee Page?
Yes.
Trustee Robinson?
Yes.
Supervisor Hewitt?
Yes. Okay, then, number 5 is, or this is actually 6, report from elected officials. Highway Commissioner Young.
I got three real quick things. Ivanhoe Avenue, that's the street where the house blew up. It's been closed. Originally, the sheriff closed it, then I closed it. I intend to keep that road closed until the homes surrounding the home that was exploded can be safe. Right now, the garage doors and the front doors aren't operational. We've been talking to the residents about that. And I intend to give them at least a week's notice before we reopen that road. If you go down there yesterday, today, and tomorrow, you'll see a group of 40 to 60 people going through that site. They're looking for the smoking gun, if you will, of what caused the explosion. I think everybody agrees at this point in time that it was natural gas, but how did the gas, where did it come from? I even talked to a guy from rural, I said, why do you raise it? They had a gas started in the basement. So that may have been, so they have people there. When I closed the road, I notified the county and fire the sheriff, so everybody's. That. Second item is on Seatucket Avenue on August 9th. We're going to be shooting the commercial.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, for cases. So they asked for our help. We help them in any way. It'll be a 12 to 14 hour day to shoot. We've helped these people before in such situations. So just to let you know, or at least the house is in the Seatucket. And the last thing I want to bring up is a settlement I'm working with. The woman took a nasty fall on one of our streets where there was a sidewalk differential of 3 inches. I'm working with council and we've limited the damages to $2,200. And council said, well, how many hours that would take for me to do more than that? So we're gonna say, all the woman was looking for some, she really fell. She got face right there, and she's just looking for something. I just want to let you know that that's good. And that's what I have.
Thank you, Highway Commissioner Young. And would you, a number of the people had, from Ivanhoe had asked to have, trying to get an intergovernmental meeting set up on the next Thursday. Is that something that you could participate in? Because they were wanting to understand the timeline and process of the investigation. Of the various investigations and various entities.
I'm out of town. I'll make sure.
Okay, would you have any desire to send anyone in as your representative?
Who's going to join?
Well, the homeowners have asked for help in understanding the timeline, because they feel like
Timeline of what?
of the various pieces of whether it's their street being closed or whether it's the investigations from a variety of different entities. They originally had asked for help with getting their garbage picked up. We made sure that Lakeshore was coming to pick up their garbage. So we're just trying to help give them a forum for them to ask questions and for their questions to be answered.
I have told the residents that I will not open that road until I get a meeting with them together and I give them at least a week's notice. So they know that, and I'll contact them for the meeting at least a week before that.
Okay, okay,
It's such a tragedy.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then Assessor Trowbridge.
No report, but I would like to make a clarification. In some of the statements that were made earlier on. Line item 10-1308 has a figure of $1,800,000 for the purchase of 129 Avenue. There was allegations made that there was $330,000 planned in renovations. I know nothing of that. I believe that $330,000 is approved by this board and the supervisor. And I take exception to anything. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Trustee Geist.
I don't have a report, but I would like to speak to some of the public statement comments because I think you're correct. It's not fair that you get to speak. You have this meeting and then you don't have an opportunity to ask questions about what happens at the meeting. That is a challenging format. I would agree with you. And I also think because we shared so much information, you're likely to have questions and then to have to wait to the next meeting to ask questions is probably not ideal. So I would like to, definitely have a conversation with the board about how we can make that a little more effective opportunity. There was some mention of $250,000 needing to be invested in this property at 2021. No, that's what was invested to create the office spaces that were created. I just wanted to try and speak to some of the comments that have been. Also, the Bubble House is a tasting room. There is no restaurant. I would agree that converting a restaurant and removing gas lines and moving electric and fryer and equipment and all of those things would be a very expensive situation, but this is just a tasting room. So we don't have the expenses attached. I wanted to speak to that. And also, I still really want to hear from you about what types of senior programs for the people. You come week after week and ask, demanded senior services. We want to hear from you because the NIU needs assessment that we paid 32, 40,000, whatever we paid for it now, didn't speak to that. So we don't know specifically what senior services or how you want those expanded. So we would really like to hear from you in your next public comment. What specifically for the people? Or citizen.
Thank you. Nothing to report at this time.
Thank you, trustee McDermott,
Nothing.
trustee Page, and then trustee Robinson.
No, I'll piggyback off of what Assessor Trowbridge said. The $330,000 was in the original budget. It was based on grant funding that needs to be applied by DuPage County. So it was to do solar panels. It was to do other types of retrofits. It was to buy the windows. We already have 110,000 currently coming from the state. So that was already in the budget. That was not added as part of this purchase. I take exception to Ms. Vasquez's comment that we lied about the purchase price. I mean, that was pretty clear. It was a right of first refusal.
I bet we decided behind closed doors.
Well, that was-
It's executive session.
That was executive session.
Exactly.
Just this misinformation is painful.
Yeah.
You have no
Yeah.
idea how painful this is. I'm putting together a summary of the budget discussions and the budget decisions that were made that I will present at next board meeting. If that's going to be helpful to everybody. Yes, you've talked about the personnel issues, and part of it is that we don't feel that the personnel strategy has been properly discussed with the board. So that's really what is a big part of, you're right, that is part of contention. And are we focused on the right services? One of the things I put together is an assessment of the services that we are delivering and what the volumes those are, and do the personnel that we have match up and align with those. I think those are important discussions that we as a board have to address. And that gets to what the staffing needs to be and how we're going to make sure that we do deliver the services that the township needs. And that it's a bipartisan discussion. It's not one person making a decision.
Yes.
And then I'll stop there. Thank you.
Can I just add, on that just really quickly, this is a bipartisan board. And it's really frustrating when people come into this room and attack members of this board. We work really hard and we work really well together. And for you to continue to make this a political activism issue is it's icky. I really can't think of another word for it, because here we have a board that is bipartisan, that really is trying to work really hard together to do what's best for this community. So to say the Republican way or the Democratic way, no, it's the human way. We're here as human beings, and you can shake and nod your head all day, but I don't see you sitting in this seat. I don't see you capable of sitting in the seat and taking the abuse that we take sitting in this seat. Because I don't ever see you sit on any board in this community for that fact. So that being said, I really hope that we can do better about making sure if you have questions, ask us. We're here. We have email. We live in the community. Stop in my place of business and talk to me, ask me questions. But to come here with this hostility and to come here with this just sort of anger and these little attacks all the time, it's not conducive. It really isn't. So if you really care about this community, then let's act like we care about this community and not just come to attack and abuse the board and be upset because we don't always act in the way that you believe is best, but we act in what's best for the community as a collective, not for Republicans, not for Democrats, not for Black people, not for white people, not for short people, not for tall people, not for able people, not for disabled people, all people.
Okay, and any other reports? Clerk Polowitz.
So I have a request to go on the next agenda. At the beginning of next meeting, if we could put on there a presentation and discussion regarding MetLife short-term disability policy for the employees. David from Assured Partners will be coming, and you can share the program and answer any questions.
Will that address pregnancies?
That's what that's for.
Perfect. Okay, so we already have a plan.
And I could talk about, John had a good idea about the disability program through IMRF.
Excellent.
There's another one too.
There's also another request to add Lisa Rose back on as a signatory for Wintrust. And to be able to give her access to the operation files in order to do her job. So if that could be for discussion and action. Were there any other things to be on the agenda?
So in my report, I was gonna go over the agenda currently that we have. You'll all be sent this as the draft version, but currently we have the discussion, possible action, bill payment, accountant's report, supervisor's report, staff reports. When it comes to staff reports, the piece to note is that staff have asked is, in particular, is are they going to be paid to give reports? Because if we're asking them to be there or to potentially be doing work, they need to be paid for that. And that's another piece in the budget that we need to think about doing, because we tend to go long in these things. So making sure that that's
Are we paying for the bookkeeper, Lisa Rose, to be here?
so,
Oh.
I didn't ask for that to be, I'm not sure if anybody in the board, I'm not sure if anybody in the board had asked. for
And
her
Miss
to-
Ruby, we don't pay for her to sit through the meetings, right?
We don't pay anybody to be
Okay,
doing.
so there's just certain staff who are asking to be paid to come and deliver their report.
No, the reality is that when people or employees do work, we're obligated to pay them.
That's not what the question was. The question is, are there staff members who have specifically requested to come to the meetings and be paid for to deliver the report?
Oh, there's specifically a number of staff that believe that they should be at like during the day, if we have a meeting, that they should be able to be paid, be watching the meeting and whatnot. So yes, that does
So
exist.
They specifically have said, if we come to the meeting to deliver our staff report, they're expecting to be paid. I'm asking a very specific question.
Yes,
Because I want to make sure that, that is actually what the staff is saying.
Who's
And they-
currently getting paid to attend the meeting?
I haven't,
Staff.
it literally, we went over this at one of the meetings that we said, okay, well, it's in nobody's job description to come to these meetings. And so it's literally not anything that I would have ever assumed is actually.
For a salaried employee, I would assume that, because that's just what a salary, that's how a salaried employee, I mean, that's part of being a salaried employee. Hourly employee, yes, I could understand that, yeah. But a salaried employee, sometimes there's just outside of 9 to 5, when you're salaried, that's why you're salaried, because there's going to be out of those normal typical hours.
And a lot of those people are also wondering, okay, well, then would we be getting comp time for doing that? So we need to make sure that that is understood.
Okay. that's fair.
There's a staff.
Put that on personnel.
We can reach out to
Yeah.
staff ourselves with the personnel committee and ask.
And
they would
there's
do.
also some legal issues
Here's
that
the
we need to
question, though.
make sure.
Previous
What's
employers
the
used to
legal
come.
question?
Well, again, if we're asking, if the board has said that if the staff is here, that they be allowed to give the report, and if they're being asked to do work and we're not paying them for the work that you all are asking them to do, wouldn't you say, Carrie Lynn, I actually have started this conversation, but wouldn't there be a legal obligation to pay them for the work that they're doing?
For
or-
a salaried employee.
And there's a
They're
variety of
exempt
part-time.
Under the Fair Labor Standards Act, and they're salaried and they're exempt from overtime. If they're hourly and we're asking them to stay late, yes, but then some townships just have staff present written reports, meeting.
And that's what we ask is a written report. So there's a written report from the staff. And again, there's a discussion at one of the last meetings of, okay, then who's paying for that report?
But that's good to know. So now we know that if they're salaried, they're exempt from.
Is a tradition that we pay employees, prior to the mass exodus of every employee we had, they used to come to the meetings. Were they paid when they came to those meetings? We had two that were pretty steady that would come. Were they paid for that or not? Is this new that you're implementing?
I'm not
Okay,
implementing.
so were
anything.
they paid?
They were not.
Okay.
Because
And again-
Now you're asking
salary,
for them to be paid.
because their salary.
Again, the staff have asked whether they were going to be, a number of staff have asked
We'll
whether they
refund them.
would be paid. And so making sure that we understand what that obligation is and, you know, understanding that if that is gonna be something that's done, that needs to
I
be a
don't think
fair
it's that they necessarily
expectation.
have to be there at every meeting, but there is some value to someone delivering their own report. And
So,
being present to answer questions. So if they're a salaried employee, it's a small commitment once a month.
so again, we're just needing to make sure that that conversation is had and that expectation is understood.
Yeah, I don't think teachers
So,
get extra comp
I-
for coming to board meetings.
So if we want to get through this agenda, and making sure that we have what's on here, the presentation from Lauterbach and Amen and Mark Dahlberg would be right after staff reports. Discussion and possible action on retaining an accountant, that would be from the above. Discussion and possible action from MetLife. From
So-
Ms. Rose,
So could I ask, maybe because we have people coming to visit us to give presentations, maybe we could switch this around a little bit? You had asked for the beginning of the meeting, so if we could have MetLife up to the top and presentation by Lauterbach and is it Amen? You know, maybe we could move them up. We could discuss it later, but
Yeah,
so these are the three that have people coming in, and so we can move those to right under the bills. Or do we,
would it be,
is Linda Nader planning to be here? I haven't heard anything from her.
or you could put her after.
So we could put the presentation from Amen. So is that acceptable to everybody?
What is number 6? Is there someone coming in for that? Is there a name to that?
6 is going to be right, again, we could move that down if you want to do that.
It's up to
After-
you. I'm just
It
trying
just seemed to make sense.
Yeah, so
Nice.
I misspoke in the last meeting. I said that I had already made the statement that we were evaluating alternate accounting firms. I misspoke. There've been some discussions, but the board had not been made aware of that, so that was my error. I apologize. There are two firms we're talking to. One is Lauterbach and Amen, and the other is an individual CPA named Mark Dahlberg. They are both going to present their capabilities, and we'll have some material in the board packet tomorrow.
okay.
And then this is, okay, after what we've heard, are we comfortable going with either one of them? And here's what the cost would be.
Sure.
So that's what 5 and 6 are.
Just throwing an idea out, just based on the feedback we had in public comment. Would you be interested in us trying a public comment at the end for one meeting? I'm just throwing it out there.
We've done that. And it didn't work out well because our meetings tend to stretch, 3, 4, 5 hours. And the public, I wouldn't want to ask the public to stay that long, you
Okay,
know?
I was just trying to, he makes a valid point. There's a lot of information that
agreed.
happens.
Yep.
And then when if they want to ask questions,
Totally agreed.
it's too late.
Yep.
But
Do you
it's
want to
the-
have another public comment? That's another option, is to have the first one and have the second one.
If we reduce them, the time.
The discussion that we had, my recollection of the discussion that we had on this issue is that agenda, we cannot deviate from that agenda, and we cannot move or deviate from it. As a result, any particular issue, if we put the comments afterwards, they're not gonna be able to comment on the action items that we've already discussed in the meeting. Because we have an agenda and the public and everybody can see
Oh.
what the action items are, they can make those comments ahead of time to hopefully to make their opinions known to the trustees before those votes are taken. But that was the reason why we went from the comments at the end and put them back at the beginning.
Okay, I thought it was a good point. I'm sorry, what is number 11?
You might
Um,
want to change that.
It's actually, it's the weed liens, technically, it's
We
the,
would change that word, quite honestly, supervisor.
what would we like to call it?
Here's a connotation we might not want to put out there.
How would we,
Right?
sorry, just trying to figure out
But
what,
we might find a caravan of people coming through the parking lot. Where's the policy? I'm here, right?
So
what would we like to call it then, the weed lien policy? And it's not necessary lean. to-
Unkempt yard, I would not call it weed, honestly.
Yeah.
I would refer to it as unkempt.
Because it could be more than just.
So one
it could
person's
be
weed
couches,
is another
it could be-
person's pollinator plant.
So would it make sense to do this? Number 6, put it at number 5, 5 push to number 6, not put number 10 to after.
Well, okay, so
Too
wait,
fast, too fast.
okay, so the people that are coming in are
Yeah.
going to be 5 and 6.
Yeah, so.
And so then why we're trying to get them in and out, right?
That's what I'm trying to do. So if you, just so it flows, maybe we could do MetLife as number 5, put the accountants as number 6, and then after that, we could have the discussion and possible action on retaining the accountant. Doesn't that make sense?
It
Instead
does,
of
right after
jumping
meeting,
back?
yes.
Okay.
Okay, that's good.
Right, and then the accountant's report, if Linda Nader's here, I mean, that makes sense. You know, all the others, however you want, but didn't I already get the Bear Snow contract for 23-24?
So no, we
Okay.
have just been given the Bear Snow contract.
Okay,
And so it needs to be approved and then it can be signed.
Okay.
So that's why they just sent it to us a few days ago. I said I would put it on the agenda. This is in order for us to have snow removal. So next would be discussion and possible action on job descriptions. Next would be discussion and possible action on signatory for Lisa Rose. Discussion and possible action on the Bear contract and discussion and possible action on when to have a police presence at meetings and when not. Discussion and possible actions on the no confidence vote for the supervisor, report from the finance committee. Discussion and possible, I assumed you wanted a report, trustee Robinson. Discussion and possible action on the amended budget for 2023-2024. Old business, new business, reports of elected officials, and the minutes to be reviewed. Anything else to be added?
If you're gonna have people come in and talk about short-term disability through an outsider, I think you should have somebody here who is familiar with the IRMF short-term disability program,
Oh, sweet choice.
so you understand what they already have.
That's a good point.
So do we want to have that right? We can do that right after the discussion from MetLife. But at the same time, I think that might be long for the accountants. So do we want to do the
Yeah.
well, discussion from IMRF?
It's okay.
I'll see if I can get somebody to confirm.
Well, somebody, just somebody familiar, maybe an employee who knows. Who's used that. I don't know.
could I
Number
just make a
15.
suggestion? Oh, go on.
15, the discussion possible action on Bear Snow contract for 2023-2024. Does that include the 21 property as well?
It's in the packet. I will check right this second.
No,
I'm just curious, I know we've been working with them for a number of years, but do we ever just even request other bids? Especially since now we have 2 spaces we're gonna be managing?
It's not, I don't see that it's in here. And was it in the past, was it a different contract?
Yes, it's a different point.
Right, okay. Oh, because we didn't have to do it because it was JRM that was doing it. Okay, I'll get back to them and get a new contract. Before then, thank you.
Should I just suggest that maybe in the future that we do a consent agenda for a lot of these? And then if there's questions on it, we can pull them. You know, like the Bear contract and actually the staff reports are all in there. We read them. A consent agenda is that you just vote on them together because they're just normal things we do basically every month.
So
Bottle does that all the time.
So we have worked together and we've had in the budget, or sorry, in the rules, there's an agenda that is proposed as to what basically the order of what we're trying to do.
Okay.
I was just
Just a
simply
suggestion.
going through here and trying to make sure that as you all were adding pieces to the agenda, that we had the time to go through this. Is there anything else that you want on the agenda item wise?
Well, you probably don't need the budget on there, right? If you're doing the budget at the special meeting.
So if you all don't want to talk about any of those pieces that are changing or are not,
I would, let's have a finance committee meeting to talk about that.
okay.
I don't think we know enough by next
I'm
week.
still confused, like, why don't we have any other bids, especially now that we're gonna have be maintaining a larger property, maybe there's. Better pricing available with another firm, I don't know, maybe we should always have at least 2 or 3 bids. Why would we just agree to another contract, how do we know that that's the best opportunity? I mean, we're talking about spend.
And I was gonna ask the trustee Page and trustee Robinson, do you have any minutes that you want approved into there?
I think I've given you everything.
They've been approved.
I've got some,
I think you have some.
yeah, I'll send them to the supervisor. I've got, I'll send what the minutes are that have to be approved. They're from the personnel committee meetings, yes.
And to answer your question, we can table that if needed.
Okay,
If we can get a personnel committee in before then we could address. If we can't, then we could table that until the next meeting.
okay.
And I'm not sure I'm
Keep it
gonna
in.
have today's meeting done by tomorrow.
Okay, then, for the decennial committee report update, there's a whole lot of pieces that need to be done. And frankly, again, we were focused on the budget and on this building, so the time hasn't really been allotted to focus on that. You'll get an update as to where we're at with timing on that. I expect that it will be at least 3 or 4 months before we would be coming back to that.
The Bicentennial Committee has been working on the budget and the building.
No.
Oh.
The township has had a lot of special meetings, focused on the budget in June, the building in July. So the township as an entity has had a variety of different, agendas basically focused.
Yes, I agree.
Okay, and then August 9th is, when. Sorry, September 14th is when we're planning to have a ribbon cutting, letting people know about our recycling program. Where I just want you to put that on your calendar. We really have had a lovely start to our recycling program, which has been very exciting. And so again, we're gonna have that at September 14th.
What
We
time?
expect that to be at 7 o'clock.
PM?
Yes, ma'am.
Wait,
Here.
let's debate.
If you do it a little bit earlier, you might have the chamber come.
What time would the
They
chamber?
usually do it like 5:55 to something, and they usually cut the ribbon at 5:15. I don't know if they will or if they can, but that's just an idea, if you want a little bit more publicity for it.
That sounds like a great idea. We'll change it to 5 or just.
I would
again,
call them first.
It may be easier to get in before people are home for dinner. Or at least I'm thinking dinner time that time. Okay, the other piece to note is that I did speak with the county about a variety of issues, and one was the solar panels. They're gonna help us get their bids for what they just are doing a project themselves, and they're gonna give us their bid information of who they got, what for their expansion as well. So that's good news on that end. Any other questions?
About the recycling program, how is that working? I mean. We're just gonna go out there and we're just gonna start bringing stuff in, or like, what's the flow of
I
that?
think that's what happened. It just began yesterday.
No,
And
it was,
staff was unaware.
Oh, staff wasn't aware that the recycling program was starting at the township?
well, that's amazing because it was advertised in all the newsletter and everybody.
I understand it was advertised in the newsletter, Supervisor Hewitt, but the staff was unaware that yesterday was the start date.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It's really truly amazing. Boy, that's tough.
I do have a question. though.
What's that?
Yes, because I've been getting calls.
Yeah, Beck, could you just tell us the flow? I just want to know, so we know, so we can be informative when people ask us about it.
So-
What's the flow? Yeah.
Okay, great. So as was directed in the newsletter, it's quite simple. You go into the, you come up to the front here. There's a camera right there. What we wanted to make sure is that we have the process down, but when you come up to the front, then you go to the receptionist, you leave everything in your car. The receptionist will tell you where things need to go. And what the next step is of this process. So there's a list exactly in the newsletter that came out as to what exactly we're taking and who's getting it. So once the piece, for example, say it's a cloth item or a textile, there's 4 bins right up at the front. There's a cart where things are being collected. We
In
expected
the
it.
lobby, you're gonna collect it here in the lobby?
So it's not in the lobby.
Oh.
As you walked in, you may have seen that cart with the 4 bins. Right there, there's a nice
great.
camera to make sure that everything is, that we know what's going on. The eWorks people believe that we should install 3 signs. I'll give you those bids as to the signs that we need. But to help direct people. So there's going to be a sign here. There's going to be a sign right beside our food pantry entrance. Beside our food pantry entrance, there are 6 bins, all for scarce. Those are going to be things that are constantly collected. And then if there's something that is larger or where everything is currently stored with the collection is in the last garage. And so we had eWorks here that had an hour and a half, 2-hour instruction. They lent us their guy that is going to be helping with our pickups and helping organize everything on Tuesday. He's coming back on Friday. So in general, what happens is that on Fridays, eWorks is going to come and send a truck that will then pick up whatever we have in our Gaylords.
Every Friday?
Every Friday, unless we call for an earlier pickup. If we have our Gaylords get full, we can call for an earlier pickup and they'll come.
So if I just wanna walk myself through it, so I
Mhm.
come in, I check in with Ruby. I find out where I'm gonna go with all my things, I get back in my car and I drive to the different areas.
So most of the time, nobody has to drive to
Okay.
most of the time, they just give Ruby they put it right at the bin. And then Ruby or whomever is the receptionist can see the bins. She can see people coming in and out. She can see where the flow is, and she understands that basically their job is going to be to, after that particular cart is full, then she goes and takes the stuff to where it needs to be aggregated.
So the staff has to haul this recycled material? Is
So
that in their job description?
again, we do need to catch up with those job descriptions in the proposed job descriptions in the receptionist proposed job descriptions proposed 3 months ago. It was in their proposed job descriptions of the receptionist. We've been planning this for 9 months almost to get to this point. So and then Gerald Wolf is in charge of emailing whether it's eWorks to let them know to pick it up. Scarce gets their drop off because when we have our food pantry go to pick up food in Addison on the daily, then Scarce is right on the way. So all of the books and all of the things to Scarce gets dropped off in that way.
And you're taking TV monitors and computer monitors?
So that's eWorks that takes those. And
So if somebody, my neighbor gave me one, how do I get rid of it?
okay, then the only thing that has any charge attached to it is a TV monitor or a computer monitor, anything with a monitor. And that's because of the disposal. We're not making any money. We're not dealing with the money, but there is on all of the advertisements. And here is the place where you make the payment. So then the only thing that we collect is the receipt for that payment. And then we put all of those aggregated materials in the garage where they're being collected.
So I walk in the door, pay is it 25 or 35 bucks?
If it's under 21 inches, it's 25. If it's over 21 inches, it's 35. So
Okay,
21
here's the money,
inches.
And then I go down there and put it in the garage.
Okay, so imagine that a lot of these things are smaller. Most of them are smaller. So if you had to pay, for example, the 25, then you would give the receptionist the receipt, and most of the time they're just put right out on that cart. We really, in the average day, about how many TVs have we gotten? I think there's just 5 or 6 right now.
Well,
Gerald,
we get more computer monitors than TVs,
Really?
but yeah, we have maybe 3 large TVs back there. And we probably have about 6 or 7 computer monitors back there right now. but we don't collect any money here.
Where do you get the receipt?
If
You
you
go
go to the
online,
county,
you go on the online,
yeah,
and then they'll print your receipt off after you make the
You
payment.
just bring the
You
receipt.
present the receipt here, and then we'll take.
I have one
it
sitting in my
and
garage, that's why I'm asking. the
And,
question.
and just for the record, you know, that we do recognize that not everybody has the strength to do that stuff.
Yeah.
So there is assistance here, me being one of it.
Oh,
one
good.
of them. Just like I just did today. As it gets full, we just take it back there and put it in bins that are there. So it doesn't clutter up the foyer for us.
Yeah,
And we just try to keep it smooth.
Good.
We just try to keep it smooth, but.
well,
it
it's
has
very
been-
exciting, thank
It
you.
has been hot.
That
Thank you.
has been the question that I have gotten on the phone, so I can answer that there will be someone here to help them.
Yes,
Yes.
Okay.
yeah.
and
Through
the,
our operating hours.
through operating.
Yeah, I totally get it. Yeah, yeah.
and one of the signs that we want to make sure goes up is that we don't want dumping. eWorks was clear that we don't want to have it where people are coming to go through the trash, that they're just randomly putting something here. So we're wanting to have 3 signs, and the last one will show people or would depict people not to dump things. And we're doing internally 3 different pieces. One is that we're updating the website to include all of what the DuPage website has. Basically, there's a whole lot of things that we're not taking. And we're essentially getting a whole lot of questions of, okay, where do I go? I'm not sure where to go for XYZ. I have a mattress, I have a furniture, what have you not. So there's a lot of times we're helping our staff understand what not to take, because we're not the garbage dump, we don't wish to be. We're just the middleman helping make sure that we're doing our part. The county is extremely excited about this option. Any other questions? Okay, then, is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're adjourned.